Okay, so this recipe is also from the Revised Vegan Slow Cooker, or at least the base of it. We're going to do jackfruit carnitas, and it's really easy to do. So this is the canned jackfruit in brine that's been just rinsed. And we're just going to leave it like this. And I'll show you the can. I usually get this one at the Asian market, but you want to make sure it says in brine or in water, never in syrup. So with jackfruit, if you've ever had juicy fruit gum, which you probably have, that's the flavor of ripe jackfruit, and that is not a good flavor for carnitas. So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to cut up an onion, use some minced garlic, make a quick little kind of chili citrus sauce, pour over it, leave it be, and then we'll break it up with a spoon. Now, most of the time I go ahead and take it all apart, but I'm gonna just kind of take a deep breath and not do that because I want you to see how easy it can be. And if you don't have cans of jackfruit, if you already have pre-shredded jackfruit, like you can get that from a couple of different companies, you could use that. This is probably about 1.5 to 2 cups once everything's shredded. I'm using my 3-quart slow cooker, but this was tested in a 4-quart slow cooker. So as long as it doesn't run, yours doesn't run hot, you should be okay. If it runs hot, then go ahead and double this recipe. You probably, even in the 3-quart, I could double, possibly even triple it if I wanted to, and it's going to freeze great. I would freeze this both in kind of 1/2 cup to 1 cup servings for bowls, and I would put it into tablespoon like ice cube trays so you could pull it out and put it on tacos. It would also be really good, like, so if you made an oat queso, maybe swirled in some of the refried beans, and you could place some of this on top, maybe with some chopped fresh onion, cilantro, and tomatoes. That would be like super delicious. So all the food that we're making in this class, we can freeze. So don't hold back if you want to go ahead and fill your freezer for the winter so you get a couple days off during the holidays. All right, so what I'm going to do, this says 1/2 cup of diced raw onion. Cheryl really hates really hates onion a lot. My onion just fell apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in slices. If you want to leave this out together, you could use onion powder, but it would be nice to have something at the bottom for the jackfruit to sit on. This also is going to make a little bit of flavor for the sauce and the broth. So if you can stand the flavor, put them in. And you really don't have to work much. We're doing it a lot like we would do the broth, where we're just making chunks and we're putting it in the bottom. I'm going to show you that. I've already taken the paper off, or the outside, what is it? Skin, the skin of garlic, and I'm just going to mush it. You can totally use pre-done garlic. I'm just out of it. In a pinch, you could use garlic powder, of course. So don't worry about that. So there we go. Our veggies are done. If you wanted to make this kind of fajita style, we could also go ahead and put some bell peppers at the bottom. And you can't get this slow cooker anymore. Everybody wants this slow cooker because it's so cute. Isn't that cute with the little owls? All right, so I'm just going to take these, and I like to take them apart. And I'm just going to cover the bottom. And I love this because this is a very simple recipe. And you could go ahead and put like shredded carrots in here, peppers. You could add a lot more veg if you wanted to. I'm making this kind of plain just for the taco sort of style. And then let me go ahead and get this garlic in here. It's about 2 teaspoons of garlic. That one big piece because Cheryl will surely fish that out. Okay, and we can mix it all up later. And then we're just going to put these drained chunks on top of there. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is mix up our simple sauce. I'm just using this. You could use a bowl. Actually, we could use a bowl. We could use this bowl. I've got 1 orange that I'm going to juice, and I've got some spices. A lot of the spices, since we're doing mostly Mexican stuff, are going to be pretty much the same. So let me get my citrus reamer, and that just helps me get out more of the juice. So I'm just going to go in and twist. It also makes this process a little less painful. If you're using an orange that has a lot of seeds, juice it first, then strain out the seeds. It's just easier, and you don't have to really go, "Ooh, did I miss a seed?" But there really haven't been any seeds in these oranges. I think they're seedless. Not sure if they're supposed to be or not, but I'm not too worried about that either. So this is probably between a 1/2 cup and a cup of juice. If you had a smaller orange or one without that much juice, you could add extra water. You could just go ahead and use orange juice or juice another orange. Yeah, I think that's pretty solidly a 1/2 cup of juice. And I don't care if any pulp gets in here. If you hate pulp, then don't do it. I'm also going to put 1/2 a lime. So that's probably 2 teaspoons of lime juice. And with these, you always want to hit it on the counter and roll it, and that will kind of help get more juice out. And I'm just getting in the little nooks and crannies. And the citrus juice with the chili is just an amazing flavor. So it's worth doing. This is our orange juice and lime juice. This is 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. That could be coconut sugar. You know, that could be maple syrup. That could be date paste. Really, whatever you want it to be. And we're going to do about a teaspoon of dried Mexican oregano. If you don't have Mexican oregano, I would go ahead and use marjoram. You can add salt now or add it later to taste. I'm going to add about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt in now. If you're salt-free, just leave the salt out. Later on, because you're going to eat this on rice, probably with salsa and all different kinds of things, so I would just not even bother putting in a substitute if you want to make it salt-free. All right, we're going to do 1/2 teaspoon ground cumin. Oh, no, 3/4 of a teaspoon. And I feel like, and this is a 1 teaspoon, so that's close enough. I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of chili powder, and again, it could be ancho, it could be guajillo, it could be New Mexican, it could be chili for the stew powder, though these are better. And this is a mix, and I'm going to go ahead and use a teaspoon. And I'm going to use 1/2 teaspoon of jalapeno powder, which you can leave out if you don't have. It just brightens everything up. It adds a tiny bit of spice, but not a whole lot. We're also going to go ahead and put in 1/2 teaspoon of either smoked paprika, since I don't have any right now. I'm going to use plain paprika, and I'm going to use just a few drops of liquid smoke to make them smoky. You can add more later. This is Lazy Kettle, which is the one that is the most natural. And then all we need else, you could add in some black pepper if you want. Let's go ahead and do that. We're going to do just like a little bit of black pepper. We're just going to mix this up together. So I just have my little mini whisk. And we just want this flavors to get mixed in as well as possible. That's a little piece of pulp. So I'm going to taste. So it has a little brightness from the citrus, a little darkness from the liquid smoke and the chilies. We've got some mid-tones from kind of mid to light from the jalapeno and the Mexican oregano. Very bright from the orange juice and lime juice. So it's a really nice balanced little sauce. And so I'm just going to kind of pour it all around here. Pour it on, get a little bit on all the jackfruit if I can. We'll be mixing everything in together later. And then you can cook on low for 7 to 9 hours. This would be done a little bit sooner. As soon as the onions are not too strong and the jackfruit comes apart really easily, you're ready to go. So you can also cook this on high for about 3 to 4 hours, and that should be good enough too. And we'll take a look at it later. Okay, so now things are ready. And I want to talk about this for just a minute too. And we'll talk about it when I'm just talking in general about slow cookers. But I had pretty much everybody on high-ish heat, and it didn't take 3 entire hours for it to be warm and ready. So I want you to think of your slow cooker as this time in between. So sometimes something may take longer to cook, especially if it's dried beans and they're old. That's the first thing. Everything else, the timing is really about how long you can hold it. So how long you can be away from the house, how long you can be at work, or like I did for the refried black beans. I don't feel like finishing that now. I'm tired from work. I'm going to let some of it keep cooking. Some things would fall apart, but for those black refried beans, it didn't matter because we were going to puree them anyhow. So just kind of know that, like, to me, that's one of the most valuable things about slow cookers, period. The Instant Pot is wonderful. You can come home, you have a little bit of energy, you get that stuff done. But with here, you don't have to have any more energy. And you don't have to be here. So could I have done some of these in the Instant Pot and set a delay? In theory, yes. In practice, no. Because too many of these ingredients could go bad in 6 to 8 hours not being refrigerated. So that's one of the reasons, time and time again, I still use my slow cookers, even though I use my Instant Pot as well. If I'm staying at home, I love to just put something on in the morning and then just have dinner magically ready for me. Now let's look at part 2 of the Jackfruit Carnitas. And again, I've been cooking these on high. You can see the steam come up probably. And let's take a look. It smells delicious, like really, really delicious. Okay. So see how some of these onions have cooked down really well? They're big enough Cheryl can pick out. The jackfruit isn't going to naturally fall apart, but do you see how I'm pushing it towards the side? So I'm just basically taking the back, putting this up to the side, and pressing. And I'm not having to press very hard. And that's how I'm going to make this fall apart. And if you had already gotten it to fall apart, or taken it apart with your fingers the way I often do, that's fine too. If you had already shredded, then you don't have to do this. But then you'll still want to mix everything up really good. And I love the texture of the jackfruit. I think it's very meaty. It's, you know, it kind of gives you that stringy consistency of pulled pork, or depending on what you're using it in, shredded chicken. It gives that same kind of illusion. And what we could do with these carnitas, and I won't do this because I'm going to freeze some of them, so I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to freeze them like this. But when I take them out, so I'm going to just freeze them like this, but when I take them out, I recommend heating it up in your oven or an air fryer. So I would take a sheet pan, put a piece of parchment paper over there, and cook it till it gets kind of nice and dry, which is not usually what we're looking for, but it gives it kind of that burnt end consistency, and it will give it an even meatier, chewier texture, and people will really like that. And like I said, even in this 3-quart, you can see that I could have done a double recipe in here. So in a 4-quart, you certainly could. And if you have a 5, 6, 7, 8-quart, you're going to have to double and even sometimes triple these recipes. Especially if your slow cooker runs hot. Let's see, there's me just squishing that one. But I think it's so much fun. Like if you only have one slow cooker, like a normal person, I'm going to go ahead and turn this one off because it's losing some of, I want it to keep a little bit of juice, but see how it's gotten a lot drier. As we're breaking this apart, the sauce is really getting mixed in with this. And you could add, we'll taste it. I'll probably add salt or salt substitute. It already has like a nice chili citrus sauce to it. But this looks very meaty. At times I have taken out these little seeds, but in young jackfruit, they're completely edible. So there's no reason, unless you're somewhat offended by them. Cheryl used to be, and now she doesn't care. And if you don't want to go through all the trouble of crisping this up, you could also just saute it in a pan to heat it back up. All right, let me get a spoon. We're going to taste this. Okay. So the lentil quinoa is kind of like basic. We still got some good dark flavors and things like this, but this is like special. Lots of citrus, chili. It's just very delicious. So there's a lot of flavors going on. There's a lot of texture from the jackfruit. Just seeing this one piece. I really want to smush it. There we go. And whereas this may not look like much, that's probably 1/4 to 1/2 cup is what you'd want to use for a bowl. And when I keep saying bowls, what I mean is cook up some rice or some quinoa or whatever. And any of these toppings, you can put refried beans on it. You can put the jackfruit carnitas. You can put the tofu verde. You can put the lentil quinoa mixture. Or these could be a taco buffet. And you could just let people get whatever they want. One of the things I'm doing with some of my friends lately, because they are a family of picky eaters, is that almost every time they come over now, we're doing Mexican bowls. I have all the things. They pick what they want. They can leave what they don't want. So if like maybe you're inviting your friends who are meat eaters, they're like, I don't know about some of this tofu and jackfruit stuff. They'll eat the lentil. They really will, and they'll eat their refried beans. And then you could have some vegan cheese to put on top. I usually use the almond yogurt, unsweetened plain. to kind of do all these toppings and have a variety of sauces and lettuces. So they can make a lettuce bowl, a grain bowl, maybe have some air fried tortilla chips or something like that. So they can really go however they want. Typically, I would go ahead and make a queso as well. Okay, so that's really our jackfruit. And I just love making this recipe because it's so easy. And you could make it on the stove, you can make it in the Instant Pot, you know, all of these you could. But there's something just nice about throwing a can of stuff and a few spices in, a few squeezes of citrus, and there you go. It's just a really delightful thing.